Rules in action. Rules that keep things going smoothly and fairly. Rules that help us get where we're going. Help us work together, play together, and live together. Of course, in small groups, we sometimes get along without rules.
But there aren't any loud noises, just the sounds of working. We call these work sounds. Listen.
When many of us play together, rules make the game. Rules help us play fair with each other, so all can enjoy the game. Rules that apply equally to all. It's up to each one of us to know the rules and follow them.
Why do you suppose this room is so quiet? Perhaps we can learn from the teacher.
At New York's Madison Square Garden, a city college quintet faces five fast and fancy weddings from the University of Oregon. It's the opening contest of an intersectional doubleheader, and New York scores 2 points worth of first blood.
And you know, we have found that knowing when to be quiet is a part of growing up.
16,000 fans watch the boys from the Pacific Coast as they try to stem the onslaught of City College fever. But it's all over when Silverstein shoots off the hardwood, decades the ball, and the ball game for CCNY 38-36.
Because a quiet room helps all of us learn.
How do you do it?
Well, each of us knows how to work quietly. That's very important.
But the evening sport is a long way from the locker room. In the second game, a team of Northwestern Wildcats is matched against St. John's University of Brooklyn. The lads from Illinois are off to a springboard start when Bob Coble eases the Allen into the basket to take the lead.
Do you think you could walk this quietly? Listen to this work sound.
But tribal warfare comes to the gymnasium as the St. John's Indians retaliate with 2 points. From now on, the game is touch and go, with 10 men helping to get it there. A beautiful display of teamwork, and Northwestern gets in the number column with sharp shooting Bob Coble doing the honors.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Learn the Game, where you learn if you got an F for effort. First, before we get into all of this, welcome, poor little cuss Rex. How are you, sir?
All right. The recently retired Rex.
Until January?
Probably. I'll decide, between Christmas and New Year's if I'm going to go back for another year.
What are you going to do if you actually retire?
Race.
Yeah. Nice. At least you have all the time.
There was a 100-mile race in January and another one in March that I'm eyeing.
Nice.
Me and my then 10-year-old son just did a marathon a couple weeks ago. His first.
Oh. Wow.
He actually won his age division.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What is poor little cuss about?
It was a inside joke. Politicus, poor little cuss.
Oh, gotcha. Poor little cuss.
Due to the rather prevalent opinion of my opinions on basketball on YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely. So, LeBron James, would he have a shot against Ed Macauley in 1956?
Well,
if he was alive? And
well, yeah, I understand. Yeah, time machine basketball. Obviously, the rules of the time catered more towards Macaulay's style of play. A lot of people today don't even know the name, or they only know the nickname Easy Ed Macauley, and know nothing of the player and exactly what he was able to accomplish in the early NBA. There are still many, many players in the NBA today that play like Ed Macauley. He would have a place in today's game. Whereas the disadvantage LeBron has is his style of play, the basically overwhelm the defense with his strength and athletic ability and bowl his way to the basket, where he's been outrageously successful at it in the modern era. That style of play was not allowed at all in the 1950s. So he would have to completely change his style of play, which I believe he would have been able to do. But he would have been more, I believe, like a Maurice Stokes, who unfortunately we didn't get to see. There's virtually no highlight film of Maurice Stokes because his career was taken so quickly, and then his life ended prematurely. But when you look at, he was the size of LeBron, the physicality of LeBron, and he was the first physical player with extreme athleticism. Unfortunately, because of his injury, he never got to be what LeBron ended up being. And we don't know, what Stokes would have been able to achieve, where he would have been if he would have been in the GOAT debate. But he was 6'9", 240, 250, back in an era when they ran much more. So in a modern era, he would have been heavier. He would have lifted more weights. It would have, So I look at LeBron as being comparable to a Maurice Stokes, who was amazing for his brief period of, play. But Ed was the 6'9" power forward center that had the mid-range game, could use either hand down low. He was a 75% free throw shooter throughout his career. He's right. You literally could find 100 NBA players today that play the same way Macauley played.
Yeah, with
that, very interesting.
So with that said, to bring it back to LeBron James' capability to play, I know you were comparing him to potentially being like Maurice Stokes, but what are some of the things that otherwise, I know you mentioned some of the weaknesses that he potentially would have had. Why holistically would you say for a lot of players that it would be harder to go back in time versus for players from the past to go forward in time?
Well, people think the actual human being's athleticism has improved over 70 years. It has not. It's human evolution does not improve over decades. It improves over millennia. And in fact, you could say that with the Industrial Revolution and now everything being done for us, we've actually gotten less athletic. I mean, when the bicycle was invented, the safety bicycle, 2 equal-sized wheels, was invented in 1885, the original advertisement was that any reasonably healthy person could hop on it and ride 100 miles.
Yeah.
Okay. I guarantee you, I do 100-mile races today. And we have, I did the 24-hour world championships last year, finished 27th. I think we had 35 finishers or something like that, or less. It's like, it's considered a major achievement to do that now. But when the bike was first invented, you had one gear, no brakes, no freewheel, no paved roads. It was expected that anyone who was healthy could ride it 100 miles. People were healthier and more athletic back when stuff wasn't done for them. And to go from wearing Chuck Taylors, not lifting weights because the belief was it affected your shot, and a lot of the nutritional, you didn't have the nutrition of today. Smoking and drinking was commonplace. To then come to an era where you know your body better, you know the nutrition is better. You have trainers right there watching everything you do, overlooking your training, your food intake, your calorie, and everything, and no smoking, no drinking. Is what they preach, but they all do, but it's bad for you now. You have shoes that are hundreds of dollars that are made to protect your foot and make your game better, not the stuff that, they had back then. It would elongate careers and make players like the guys that could jump back then only jump for the first few years of their career. Then on the old courts with the old shoes and no rehabilitation, really not a lot of stretching and the training, the trainers taking care of them and everything going on, you lost your ability to jump after the first few years in the league because you just beat yourself up.
Yeah.
Where guys now last regularly 15 to 20 years.
No, I got you. So just to bring it back a little bit, Easy Ed Macauley was a fantastic Celtics player. He got traded for Bill Russell back in the mid to late 50s, and then went on to win a championship with the St. Louis Hawks with Bob Pettit. For the people that don't know, can you add a little bit more to who Ed Macauley was?
Okay, well, Ed Macauley was from St. Louis. This comes into play with the trade. He's from St. Louis, went to St. Louis University, won the NIT championship. I think it was like 1940 something, like 1948, something like that. I think Holy Cross won the year before with Cousy and Heinsohn and that. But he won the NIT championship, which was bigger than NCAA at the time. Goes to the St. Louis Bombers in the territorial draft. That team went defunct, went bankrupt after his rookie year. And in the dispersal draft, he was taken by the Celtics. He ended up being an all-star his first year with the Celtics and was the MVP of the first ever NBA All-Star game. This guy had skill, okay? He was first team All-NBA during the Mikan years. I think that was like 51, 52, 53. Then the aforementioned Maurice Stokes came in the league. He was involved in the trade to get Russell because he volunteered to be traded. Because being from St. Louis, living in St. Louis, his family stayed in St. Louis, even though he played for Boston. And his son was very ill. I can't remember what illness his son had, but his son was very ill. And when they were talking about trying to acquire Russell, he offered to trade me for Russell so I can be near my son. So that's how he ended up in that trade. And then the draft pick Cliff Hagan was included, and they went to St. Louis. They both had Hall of Fame careers. Easy Ed Macauley is the youngest Hall of Fame inductee as a player ever, still to this day. he was, I believe, 32 years old when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame as soon as he retired. Immediately. There was no waiting period. He retired. He was elected to the Hall of Fame that year, 1960. That's how good this guy was. He's forgotten now, but this guy was, he could play basketball, and he could play basketball in any era with anyone else on the court with any rules. Truly great player that obviously got overshadowed. Is only known now as the guy that was traded for Russell, because Russell ended up 5 MVPs, 11 championships, all of that. So, but when he faced Russell in the finals, he won. Ed Macauley won with Bob Pettit and, who else was there? Slater Martin, Cliff Hagan, as we said. But yeah, he was just he was a great player. He even got overshadowed. And what's funny is his nickname, Easy Ed Macauley, actually didn't come from his playing style. People think that's what it was, because he was a finesse player. He had touch. He wasn't a muscle type of guy. He didn't bang for rebounds. He played off his finesse and his skill. That's why he would be able to compete in any era. And his nickname actually came, and I can't remember if it was high school or college, but he was late coming out of the locker room, and he ran straight onto the court. And it was during the national anthem, and this is just post World War II, right after World War II. So the national anthem was taken very, very seriously back then. Everyone standing still, facing the flag, hand over heart, that whole thing. Everyone, no sound, no silence, or all silence. And he comes running, didn't realize it was playing, and comes busting out of the locker room and running straight onto the court in the middle of the national anthem. And some fans, as he was running past them, were saying to him, "Easy, Ed, easy, Ed," about running on the court during the national anthem. And he was really embarrassed by it. And the nickname stuck. People picked on him about it for years because it was something you just didn't do. It was purely accidental. But that's how he got the nickname Easy Ed.
Yeah. So with that said, it kind of makes me think about these modern players like Damian Lillard or other great players that won a ton of awards. Who's going to remember Damian Lillard in, I don't know, let's even make it a little less dramatic, 40 years? Do you think that Damian Lillard or other players that are great in today, do you think they're going to survive being household names in 40 years?
Not household names, but they'll be remembered by basketball fans because they have video. We have no video of Ed. Very little of his playing career. I mean, you're talking about individual snippets of film that you can probably count on your hands. Whereas with Damian Lillard, we got the game-winning pull-up from 40 feet on digital video. That'll be played in 100 years. So his name will still be there. It'll still be, you can still see what he did. Whereas with Macauley, you just hear the numbers, and if you don't understand the context of the era, which 90% of fans don't, it just goes, yeah, he was good for his day. He was just a tall white dude that he couldn't play today. He'd smack people around today. He had a purely finesse game, and at one point was the greatest player on the planet in his day. He would still be able to play today. He played when there were only like 80 players in the league. Now there's 500. There would be a spot.
Yeah. What do you think is the most disappointing thing about basketball fans when they try to compare the different eras and saying things like you just said, he was good for his day? What's the most disappointing thing about that to you?
That average fans, and this is why I always have on my page, I'm not a fan. I'm an old basketball player. I'm not a fan. I just don't sit back and watch the game. I don't watch games. I will not watch games. I don't watch highlights. I don't need to. There's nothing I can see on a YouTube highlight that I haven't seen in person actually on the court. When I play against younger players, there's no moves they can do that I haven't seen before, that I don't know how to cover. They may physically beat me because they're quicker, faster, stronger, younger, but they don't outthink me because there's nothing they can do that I haven't already seen 1,000 times playing for 50 years. So it's I actually play it. So I know I played against guys when I was a teenager, when I was just starting to play in the late 70s and into the early 80s. I played against 40-year-olds who had been in the ABA. I know how good those guys were because I actually was on the court playing with a couple retired ABA and NBA players who played in the 60s and 70s, and they smoked everyone on the court. And some of the players on that court are now in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
It's like I know how good each era. What decides the era are the rules, not the players. When they say players today can't play defense, of course they can play defense. The rules don't let them play proper defense. But to say they can't, they're the best basketball players in the world. Of course they can play. I saw a thing a while ago that said, oh, well, LeBron couldn't play he couldn't play against the bad boys, and all this. Like, of course he could. That's ridiculous. He's nearly the size of Rick Mahorn, but played, basically, small forward and, or point guard, depending on which year you want to pick. Of course he could. They're saying, oh, he couldn't take the pounding. Yeah, he could. The dude's like 260 pounds. He'd be able to dish it out in that day. That's what these fans keep forgetting. It goes both ways. All right? It goes both ways. Of course, guys, the best of the best players today could play back then. The best players back then could play today. And the thing I have to tell, which is 100% true, even though they don't want to admit it, the truth is every player that has played in the NBA, all 5,000 and whatever the exact number is, every one of them is better than you. Pick any year. Pick the worst guy from 1951. He's better than you. No matter how much practice you do, no matter how many basketball camps you go to, how many open gym runs you have, he was better than you. And that's what fans don't understand is the actual level of excellence that these guys are playing at. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I've seen it. I've seen it ever since I was in middle school. I've been lucky enough to be in areas where I got to see the NBA players during the summer. They didn't play in closed gyms. They didn't have private clubs that they played in like today. They played on the playgrounds. And I got to see a lot of them. And it's ridiculous how just insanely talented they are. And people just don't understand. Fans don't understand. Most of them have no clue.
So what would you say really is the new news about Ed Macauley? Because what's old is new is that I think what you're saying in respect to that is that these old time players, even though you haven't heard of them, there's something you can learn about them that could be applied even in today's NBA in some capacity, whether it's historically or just play style. Is that somebody like Ed Macauley, even though you haven't heard of them and it's new news to you, is a major influence on the NBA and in capacities that maybe people should look into a little bit.
Well, he learned the game when the game was about team, not about you. Today's team basketball has nothing to do with team. He learned the game when team was preached from day one all the way through, his entire career. And if you go into a game, and when I used to coach, I used to always tell the kids, it doesn't matter who's best in the world when you're 12, because you still got to do your chores, you still got to do your homework, you're still going to school the next day. It's who's best when you're 25 that matters. So don't worry about where you are at 12, 13, 14 years old. Focus on where you want to be when you're 25 and go through the steps, the learning process, the maturity process to get to that point. Even when you get to the top of the sport, when you talk about the NBA, that's the league everyone goes to make their mark. European players, Chinese players, African players, we don't go to their leagues. They come to us. So the NBA is the end-all, be-all. Even when you get to the NBA, there are only 30 go-to guys, right, on the planet. But there's 500 guys in the league. So you need to understand how to play team ball, because when you say, okay, what are the chances of you making it to the NBA, to be one of the 500? That's one thing. But then if you want to say, well, what are your chances of being one of those top 30, the main guy on each team, where everything's catered to you? Well, you're talking 30 out of 8 billion people. Okay, that's not going to be you. All right. You need to learn how to be a team player. Team first. Pick your spots. Thing Ed Macauley was great at was picking his spots. When he was with Boston, he didn't lead the team in scoring. He was second to Kuzi. Then he also had Sharman, some years would be above him. He goes to St. Louis. He's behind Pettit, right? Pettit's the main man. Everyone knows that. 2-time MVP, 50 points in, game 6 of the finals to beat the Celtics, all of that. He's the one people remember. But Macauley was the first MVP of the All-Star game. Macauley was a 3-time first-team NBA player during the Mikan years against Mikan. Macauley is the youngest ever to this day Hall of Fame inductee. It comes off being a team-first player and understanding the game, because when you understand the game, you know how to find your spot, find your place. And that is so much more important than being able to hit 35-foot chest passes at the basket and dunking 8 different ways. Learn how to play the game.
Yeah, I thought it was crazy being almost 40, playing against a bunch of 20-something-year-olds, played for the first time in a while. And so my knee still hurts, but I actually felt okay doing it. But it was crazy. We were playing the 12, and I was scoring 4 or 5 points. And it wasn't because I was forcing these shots. It's because I was outrunning people or getting wide open shots because I was in the right place at the right time. Because either my defender wouldn't keep up with me running, or the defense would collapse on somebody and have a wide open shot under the basket. So,
and in the exact same situation, I remember when I was a teenager growing up, we had a bunch of young guns. We got together on one team, and we're going to run the court, blah, 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 and all that. And we won, I don't know how many, 3, 4 games in a row. and we really had a stacked team. And then some old guys came up, all of them together. And I'm talking, they're like, in their 40s. They get next game, they come in, and they just destroyed us. And, some of the guys on my team were, well, we're tired now. We've been running for an hour and all this. Yeah, whatever. What it was is this was the early 80s, and we played more of a slow down game between us. We were younger. The game wasn't as fluid to us. We were still learning. We were all teenagers,
Mm-hmm.
Whereas these guys walked on the court. They grew up learning the game during the speed years, the highest paced era. That's how they learned the game. To them, basketball is an endurance sport. And they just ran us off the court. They ended up getting open layup after open layup after open layup, just taking off, for bunnies, getting down the court, beating us down, beating their man and getting a layup at the other end. And we were yelling at each other, get back on D, man, cover. And it's like, these guys are over twice our age. But that was their game. That's how they learned to play.
Yeah.
And they just played their game that they had been playing for 30 years. Some of them probably together because they all came together. They had to be longtime friends. And they just worked us. And we were running the court up until that point. I mean, it was just, they just outran us. People talk about, the reason these guys got all these points or all these rebounds because they played in the fast-paced era. Exactly. And what did Phil Jackson do when Shaquille was saying he could do what Wilt did? He told him, well, Shaq, Wilt played every minute of every game. So then he played Shaq every minute of every game, and Shaq only lasted a few games and started begging for time to sit. He couldn't even compete playing 60s and 50s style basketball. Because he wasn't in the proper shape. And that's what a lot of these young kids think. All they look at is the shooting percentages and the fact that they had to dribble with their hand on top of the ball, so they think they couldn't dribble. Dude, it was this time was when the Globetrotters were the most famous team in the world, doing all their ball tricks. Of course, the players back then knew how to dribble, but the rules were actually enforced, and you weren't allowed to put any part of your hand below the equator of the ball.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Hey, Rex, it's glad to be back. It's glad to have you back on the show as well. For the people that didn't know, I've been camping in Hawaii for the last month.
Been homeless.
And homeless. Got rained on a lot. It was a fun time. It slept maybe 4 hours a night for 3 weeks. It was cool. But we're back now. I look forward to making more content on this channel. I've been getting my bearing back over this last week since I've been back. Rex was grateful enough to share the show again as I've gotten back. But thank you, Rex. I now have to go start getting my kid together to get to soccer. So
doing soccer, huh? Yeah, those days are over for me.
Yeah. My
first two kids played soccer, but they're now 31 and 27. So
yeah. But yeah, these last game of the season should be fun. Tomorrow, my son's got swimming. We're trying to figure out what he's going to do next for if he's going to keep doing soccer, or if he's going to do another sport or do another hobby. Trying to keep him busy. We volunteered at Cub Scouts last night, which was fun. Selling what do you call it? Shaved ice and cotton candy to people. It's fun. But anyway, Rex, you got anything for the people? The
Yes.
one person, or that one person, see that one up there? That number is incorrect.
Well, it's actually 74, but this or that, whatever. No, but the just when we mention these old guys, just look into some of the names. Do a deep dive. Whatever your favorite team is, go back in their history. Like they talk about Sacramento Kings haven't won the championship since 1951. Okay. Well, how did they win in 51? Who was on the team then? How did that season pan out? Just take a half hour, take 20 minutes, Google it, see. And, learn about the history because they all need to be remembered. They all deserve it. They all put in the hours, had the talent, and, maximize their potential, the vast majority of them that we know, and learn the game. Forget about the players. If you don't want to research the players, learn the game. So many people I hear talking basketball these days don't understand how to play the game.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think about this, Rex? I know might not get some feedback otherwise, but what do you think about? I know this guy, pretty smart guy, real big. I know this will kind of be a sidetrack from what I've typically done. Real big guy in the science and math, and particularly, I forget what the science is called, but radio wave technology kind of stuff. I was saying I was going to have him on, but he's a real big buff on old school weapons, particularly of war. So, saying about having him on, he's also just kind of a character anyway. What do you think the market is for talking about old weapons of war or just old things dealing with science and math? I know basketball is a little bit more fun, but what do you think about a jokey kind of style talking about
the only thing with the
pigeon
guns
bomb
is
and
it's still
stuff?
guns. So you're going to hit that algorithm and you're going to alarm people and you might get,
Yeah,
for talking
you're
about
right.
guns. But yeah, I'd like to know his opinion. Henry rifle or Sharps carbine? Which would he go with?
I'm going to have to write that down. Or I'll just let you know. I'll let you know if it happens or not.
I'll be there.
Yeah.
Let me know. I'll be there. That was my jam too. Once upon a time.
Yeah,
I was a Marine too.
Yeah.
Although you're not in the Marines anymore, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. But he was talking about the pigeon bomb, where they drop it out of an airplane and then it's its own guided kind of missile with pigeons. It's just pigeons in the bomb and just tapping at the thing because there was no GPS or any sort of guide. That was the guided method. Is they use a pigeon that would just freak out at a red dot pecking at it.
You had the bombs that were dropped on the trenches in World War I by the monoplanes. Not even biplanes yet. They were monoplanes. That's how the aerial dogfights began. At the beginning of World War I, the airplane was purely for reconnaissance. You get up there and you can see, what the enemy's doing behind your normal line of sight at ground level. And they didn't have guns. The guy would carry a sidearm, but then, and they had these things called flechettes, which were sharpened spikes that they drop into the trenches from the air. And then they came up with a bomb where a guy, I think he was French. I think he was a French pilot, had the mortar rounds and a hammer. And he was flying and he'd hit the back of the mortar round to activate it and then drop it.
Wow.
And then somebody came up with the idea of taking I think it was a Vickers machine gun and mounted it on the top wing of a biplane
Mm-hmm.
and went up with the expressed intention of shooting down the reconnaissance planes and the balloons.
Yeah.
And then obviously the other side did the same thing to shoot down that guy. And then airplane warfare was created. And then you have the famous Boca rules. The first real ace, the guy that really made dogfighting a thing, Oswald Boca, the German ace, came up with the rules of how to fight in a dogfight. And those rules are still taught today over 100 years later. And of course, his most famous pupil was Manfred von Richthofen, the Red Baron. And also, what's his name? That took over for Richthofen, ended up, the Nuremberg trials, Nazi, big fat guy. Can't remember. Russell Crowe plays him. Can't think of his name right now.
Yeah, he was the leader of the SA, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
I can't think of his name right now. It's
It was the air. Yeah. I forget. I've seen a few documentaries on it.
Goering.
Yeah.
But those guys. But Oswald Boca came up with the first rules of aerial combat, which are still followed today and taught at what everyone knows, Top Gun and all that, because of Tom Cruise. But yeah, I was all into that stuff too. If you want to talk that.
Yeah, I'm sure he'd be interested. On the sidebar, the balloons. When did the balloons come into play? The 1400s, or when do you think?
1700s. The balloon was invented. Hot air balloon was invented by two brothers in Paris, France, in 1789. It was right about the same time as the Revolution.
Okay.
The hot air balloon was invented, and then obviously you have the dirigible, like the Hindenburg, the Graf Zeppelin.
Mm-hmm.
They were actually the most amazing thing we've ever put in the air. But the Hindenburg was such a vicious visual catastrophe that it completely ended airship transportation, when it's still the safest way to travel by air. It was safer than airplanes. But that one recorded visual from Lakehurst, New Jersey, of the Hindenburg going up in flames ended the entire industry.
Yeah, that'll do it. It's a pretty gnarly video. But hey, Rex, I really got to get going, but It was fun. I'll get with you about doing the show for next weekend, or the other show with the weapons. It's a good point, though. I mean, I did do my Hitler show, and I got my channel terminated. So I don't know if I want to get terminated again for the third time, but we'll figure it out. But
remember, Henry rifle, Sharp's carbine, or not necessarily the carbine, the Sharp's rifle.
Yeah, Henry or Sharp's. Okay. All right. And for everyone that's watching, all 800,000 people, learn the game.
All right.
Later, Rex.
See ya.